Hi friends, and welcome to the Week 5 edition of St. Vincent football coach Bob Colbert's video blog here on stvincent.edu. I'm Jim Berger, joined as always by Coach Colbert. This past week, the Bearcats were in Waynesburg, Pennsylvania to face the Waynesburg University Yellow Jackets, one of their longest rivals on the gridiron. It was the 28th all-time meeting between the two teams. St. Vincent started strong, but then Waynesburg answered right back and just kind of They scored a little gradually over each quarter, and Waynesburg ended up winning 33-12, improving to 4-1. Last week, Coach, you said you expected another tough physical game. Do you think that was the case, and what were your thoughts on this past week?
It was a tough physical game. Waynesburg is a physical team. They have thick kids, in football terminology. They got thick kids, and they got some big kids. So it was a little bit of a problem for us. We didn't play a good first half. I think out of Waynesburg's 6 first possessions of the game, they had 5 touchdowns and a field goal. So that we didn't play well in the first half. And on offense, we had 3 drives for a total of 12 plays. You can't do that and win football games. I asked the kids at halftime to define themselves and see how we're going to define our program, and they did. The second half, we played them in an even ball game. And they kept their regulars in for a long time, and so did we. And it was each team scored a touchdown in the second half, and that was in spite of offensively us throwing 2 interceptions. We were playing good enough on defense to stay with them. So it wasn't a complete game. Had we played a complete game, we started off strong in the first drive. We went down and we scored, did everything the way it was supposed to be done. And we kind of fell apart on offense, and then the quarterback hit some long passes on us that hurt us. So it was a game of 2 different halves for us. First half, throw it away. Second half, that's the kind of football that we want to play.
You talked about the defense's performance. One bright spot was Rob James, the senior defensive back, who picked off 2 interceptions, tying the school record. And it was also the first 2 interceptions of his career because he was a converted wide receiver starting the last 2 years on offense. Coach, tell us a little bit about Rob's transition from offense to defense and how he's doing for the team this year.
Rob's doing well. He's getting used to playing cornerback. He's a physical corner. To be honest, he wasn't wild about going over to defense. He's played a lot in his career as a receiver, but he's made a transition well, and he's played well enough that last week we named captains based on performance, and Rob's going to be our defensive captain this week. Yeah, he had 2 nice interceptions. One, the ball was thrown behind him and he made a nice catch, and he stole the ball on the other one off the receiver. He actually could have had a third. He dropped one in the end zone there, so he could have had a giant day in terms of interceptions. But Rob's made a nice transition, and he is developing into one of the more physical players on our team. And I'm hoping that this week, as a captain, he'll provide the type of leadership that we need on defense to compete against Grove City.
Well, also defensively on Saturday, the team registered 4 quarterback sacks, bringing the total up to 12 through the first 4 games. Looks like they're well on their way to surpassing last year's total of 18. And the team is second in the President's Athletic Conference with those 12 quarterback sacks. Coach, to what do you attribute the increased amount of pressure on the quarterback and the high amount of sacks?
We put a sense of urgency on the sacks. We're trying to sell our defensive linemen when it's a pass down. You've got to get out there and you've got to make a play. Some of that is attributed to we have some athletic players on the defensive line. John Jackson's having a heck of a year. So we put John Jackson inside, we put him outside, and his speed and quickness is tough for some of the big offensive linemen in our league to catch up to. So I attributed a lot of that to the presence of John. And as you may remember in the game Saturday, we probably left about 2 or 3 sacks on the field where we broke a guy loose and the quarterback was able to elude our rusher. So I think it's an increased emphasis on from our defensive linemen to get to the quarterback. That's your responsibility.
Well, as you said, it was a cool, rainy Saturday in Waynesburg. Wet ball, wet field. Do you think that had any effect on your team, or is it you're not going to make an excuse? Is that what you see it as?
Didn't have an effect. I mean, their quarterback was as good as anybody, and no, wet ball didn't have an effect at all. It was wet, so what? That becomes a so what.
Oh, well, each week, Coach, you select captains based on the previous week's performance. You said defensively, Rob James, after the 2-interception performance, will be the captain for defense this week at Grove City. Who else will be the captains on offense and special teams, and why were they chosen?
Kelly Nepshield will be our offensive captain this week. Kelly always brings an emotional lift to our offense. He's a very passionate player, and he's very consistent in his blocking, and he's consistent in his leadership. So we've chosen Kelly on offense. On special teams, Mike Spiel had a nice day on special teams. He opened up the game with a nice kickoff tackle, and he's done well. He's been very consistent. He's doing well on the punt protection. He kind of is the captain of our punt protection and makes all the calls, and there were times that he did a great job in the punt protection. Someone was loose, and he actually was able to block 2 people. And that's a tribute to Mike. Mike started out here as a quarterback, if you remember, 2 years ago, and Mike's made the transition to a linebacker and is a major contributor now on the special team. So our captains this week, based on performance last week, were Rob James on defense, Kelly Nepshield on offense, and Michael Spiel on the special teams.
As we said, this week the Bearcats will travel to President's Athletic Conference rival Grove City College for a 2 o'clock game. The Wolverines are 1-3 on the year, but they've been in every game they've played. It looks like they're scoring a lot of points. I think they're leading the conference in scoring offense, but they're also giving up a lot of points. They're near the bottom in scoring defense. The offense is led by 4-year starting quarterback Andrew DiDonato, who's basically rewritten all of the offensive record books at Grove City. What do you expect to see from the Wolverines this week, and how are we going to prepare for them?
They're a very good offensive team. Andrew DiDonato is having an MVP year offensively. He's doing everything, and he's very difficult to contain. He's passing the ball well. He's got good speed and good athletic ability, so he's running the ball well. You know, they're one of the top scoring offenses in the conference, and I believe he's leading the league in passing and a lot of other stats. So offensively, they've spread the ball out a little bit more than they have in the past. You know, traditionally our wing T team, and now they're spreading it out a little bit more and taking advantage of the whole field with Andrew there. So it's a real challenge for us defensively to go against them. Defensively, Grove City's defense always solid. They don't do a lot of spectacular things and complicated things, but they're always solid, and they make you work hard to get points. So it's a real challenge for our team, and it's homecoming, so they're going to be all fired up there, and our kids have to just continue where they left off in the second half last week and give us a great effort. And as we said, we're challenging them to play against one of the better offenses in the league this year, and we'll see how we respond. But it's going to be a challenge. There's no question about it.
Well, I wish you luck this week, Coach, to you and the team. This week's game will be aired live online, redzonemedia.com, for those of you who can't make the trip up to Grove City. Well, that does it for this week. Thank you again for joining us, as always, Coach. I'm Jim Berger. For Coach Colbert, thank you. We'll see you next week.